This is about your sister and the heavy, unbearable secret she has been dragging behind her like a chained anchor. Society teaches us a very beautiful, very dangerous lie from the moment we are born. They tell us that blood is thicker than water, that family is your ultimate sanctuary, your safe harbor in the storm, the one place where deception simply cannot survive. But you and I both know the brutal reality. The truth is often buried deepest, right inside the house you grew up in. Secrets in a family don't just sit quietly in the dark. They tick. They tick like small, calculated bombs hidden beneath the floorboards of your childhood memories. Everyone in the house feels the vibration. Everyone ignores the sound. They walk around it. They step over it. They build an entire fragile ecosystem of denial just to keep the peace. But when that secret finally slips into the light, when the floorboards crack open, oh, the game fundamentally changes. You think you know her. You think you know her because you share the same history, the same blood, the same forced smiles across countless dinner tables. But a shared history is not a guarantee of honesty. It is often just a shared illusion. And the closer the person is to you, the deeper the cut goes when the blade of truth is finally revealed. Betrayal doesn't come from strangers. Strangers don't have the map to your vulnerabilities. Strangers don't know where the softest parts of your trust are located. Betrayal is a luxury reserved exclusively for the people you love the most. The ones who knew exactly how to dismantle your defenses. Your sister's secret is a silent bomb waiting for the perfect moment to detonate. And that is the terrifying beauty of hidden truths. They don't make a single sound while they are concealed in the shadows. They just sit there, breathing beneath the surface, waiting for the illusion of safety to reach its peak. Most people in your family are entirely comfortable living in the dark. They carry these secrets neatly tucked behind polite laughter and carefully staged photographs. People believe that silence equals safety, but silence is actually the most dangerous environment in the world, because the longer a secret stews in the dark, the more toxic and heavy it becomes. And when it finally erupts, it doesn't just whisper, it screams. It tears apart every single comfortable lie you have ever been told. You are about to realize that the person you thought you were protecting was actually the one holding the match to your reality. A secret is not just what you are hiding. It is the immense, exhausting energy you spend protecting it. Think about the glances you avoided. Think about the words she carefully chose not to say. Think about the long, suffocating night she stayed awake, desperately making sure no one would find out. It consumes the liar while pretending to protect them. And the cruelest joke of all? The secret never actually belongs to the person keeping it. It belongs to the inevitable moment of exposure. When the truth finally breaks loose, the silence can no longer contain the damage. The shockwave doesn't just hit the liar, it scorches everyone who ever stood close enough to believe them. Family ties do not guarantee honesty. They only guarantee that the blast radius will include you. People love to dress family up as an unbreakable shield, a golden bond stronger than steel. Family would never lie. Family would never betray. Family would never deliberately hurt you. But family is just a collection of deeply flawed, terrified human beings. And human beings lie. Human beings hide. Human beings bleed the same as strangers. The only difference is, when blood lies, the wound cuts infinitely deeper. Think about the family dinner table. It is nothing but a beautifully decorated stage for amateur actors. She sat across from you, perfectly composed, wearing the flawless mask of loyalty and shared history. But behind that familiar smile, behind the inside jokes and the childhood nostalgia, a massive, calculated deception was actively breathing. You trusted her not because she had actually earned it, but simply because society handed you a biological contract and ordered you to sign it without reading the terms. You gave her the master keys to your trust, and she quietly duplicated them for her own selfish, hidden agenda. That is the ultimate, horrifying tragedy of sibling betrayal. They do not have to pick the lock. They do not have to break down your heavy iron walls. You leave the front door wide open for them, simply because they share your last name. You gave them the weapon, and you pointed it directly at your own chest, believing they would never pull the trigger. But they did. And when the explosion finally happens, when the ugly, festering secret violently claws its way out of the dark and sits bleeding on the living room floor, observe exactly how the rest of the family reacts. This is where the true darkness lies. They do not seek justice. They seek comfort. They rush to grab the nearest rug and desperately try to sweep the rotting truth underneath it. They will look you dead in the eye and ask you to forgive, to forget, to be the bigger person for the sake of the family's image. But listen to me very closely. What they are actually asking is for you to absorb the poison so they don't have to smell the stench. They want you to sacrifice your own sanity, your own boundaries, to preserve their pathetic, fragile illusion of a happy, perfect home. They are asking you to bleed quietly so they can pretend the knife doesn't exist. They become the silent accomplices to your betrayal. But this is the exact moment the generational simulation breaks for you. You look at the person you grew up with, and that familiar face suddenly looks like a complete, terrifying stranger wearing a stolen skin. The scales violently fall from your eyes. You finally realize that the blood running in your veins does not require you to bleed for their conscious mistakes. You stop playing your assigned, compliant role in their toxic, theatrical play. You step back from the emotional wreckage. You do not scream. You do not throw a tantrum or demand a heartfelt apology. An apology from a manipulator is just another lie wrapped in a pretty ribbon. You simply observe. You watch their fragile house of cards collapse under the weight of its own deceit, and you feel the chilling, magnificent power of absolute detachment. You suddenly realize you owe them absolutely nothing. Let us talk about the ultimate weapon against a family member's betrayal. The most devastating, terrifying response you can possibly deliver when the ugly secret is finally laid bare. Zero reaction. When she finally realizes that you know exactly what she did. When the truth is sitting right there on the table between you. She is going to brace herself for the storm. She fully expects you to scream, to cry, to demand desperate explanations. She is meticulously prepared to play the victim, to twist the narrative, and to turn your own righteous anger against you. She wants your emotional explosion because your chaos justifies her deceit. But you do not give her the script she so carefully memorized. You don't raise your voice. You don't shed a single pathetic tear. You just look at her. You look at her with absolute, chilling, dead silence. You watch her scramble in the quiet void. You watch her eyes dart around the room, and she desperately tries to fill the heavy, suffocating air with pathetic excuses and hollow apologies. But your silence is a brick wall she cannot climb. You are watching a parasite realize that the host has permanently shut down the power supply. That silence is not a sign of weakness or shock. It is the most terrifying, deafening sound a manipulator will ever hear in their entire miserable life. It is the heavy, undeniable sound of a bridge permanently burning to the ground, with them standing on the wrong side of the flames. By refusing to react, you have essentially unplugged yourself from the family's toxic, theatrical matrix. The moment you refuse to play the assigned role of the angry, hurt, and eventually forgiving sibling, you ruthlessly strip them of all their remaining power. They can no longer use your raw emotions as their personal currency. Your cold, dead stare tells them everything they need to know. It tells them that the biological contract they relied on is officially, permanently terminated. You realize in that chilling moment that blood means absolutely nothing when it is deliberately laced with venom. A shared childhood does not give anyone a lifetime pass to disrespect your boundaries. You are officially clocking out of their manipulative game, and what happens next is entirely, laughably predictable. The rest of the family will panic, and they will immediately launch the smear campaign. They will whisper in the kitchen, claiming that you are cold, unforgiving, and that you ruthlessly turned your back on your own flesh and blood. They will try to make you the villain because your iron boundaries make them deeply uncomfortable. Let them whisper. Let them desperately build an entire religion out of misunderstanding you. I want you to take that villain label and wear it like a heavy, iron crown. Because if protecting your sanity from toxic relatives makes you the bad guy, then be the most ruthless, unapologetic villain this family has ever seen. If refusing to sweep their rotting secrets under the rug makes you the black sheep, then own that darkness completely. You are no longer their emotional dumping ground. You are no longer the keeper of their pathetic lies. You have broken the generational curse simply by refusing to participate in it. Let them sit in the mess they created while you walk away completely untouched. Let us deeply deconstruct the ultimate manipulation tactic of the modern world, the phrase, family first. Society violently drilled this concept into your brain since you were a child to ensure that emotional vampires always have a guaranteed, endless food source. They successfully weaponized your own empathy against you. Your sister knew exactly how this game was played. She knew that as long as she held the biological trump card, she could commit the most atrocious acts of psychological violence, and you would be socially obligated to forgive her. She hid her venom behind the impenetrable shield of shared DNA. But family first is nothing but a pathetic scam designed by the weak to permanently trap the strong. It is a guilt trip disguised as a virtue. When a relative uses their bloodline as an excuse to disrespect you, they are not acting like family. They are acting like a parasite that feels entitled to the host. And you? You are finally breaking that fraudulent contract. You are taking the pen and you are aggressively crossing your name off the list of acceptable victims. And the exact moment you permanently break that contract, you undergo a terrifying, magnificent evolution. You are no longer just a passive, compliant branch on a rotting family tree. You actively, violently uproot yourself from the toxic soil that was poisoning your potential. You finally realize the ultimate dark truth. True loyalty is violently earned through consistent, undeniable respect. It is not randomly assigned by a blind genetic lottery. You walk away from the dining table where they are comfortably serving lies and deception, and you walk into the dark wilderness to forge your own massive iron table. You stop begging for their toxic validation. You stop trying to explain your boundaries to people who are utterly committed to misunderstanding you. You become a heavily fortified island of absolute power, completely surrounded by the cold, unforgiving ocean of your own premium standards. Anyone who wishes to dock at your shores must now pay an incredibly steep, uncompromising price. Now, I want you to look closely at her. Look at your sister when she finally realizes that her favorite, most reliable scapegoat has officially escaped the slaughterhouse. Without you there to constantly absorb her darkness and cover up her flaws, she is violently forced to sit alone with her own rotting conscience. Oh, she will absolutely try to reach out. She will desperately send the flying monkeys. She will send the guilt-tripping texts, the fake apologies, the nostalgic photographs from when you were innocent children. Do not be fooled for a single second. It is all bait. It is the pathetic act of a desperate fisherman throwing an empty hook into a completely dry riverbed. Because you are no longer the naive fish she used to catch so easily. You are the leviathan that permanently outgrew the toxic pond. Her cheap, predictable little tricks simply bounce off the heavy titanium scales of your new identity. The door is locked, and she is standing outside in the freezing cold, entirely by her own design. Let us deeply dissect the pathetic, highly predictable roles assigned within a toxic family structure. Every broken family operates exactly like a sick, twisted, subconscious cult. They desperately need a golden child to project their fake perfection onto, and they absolutely require a scapegoat to permanently carry the heavy weight of their hidden sins. Your sister happily accepted the fake golden crown. She comfortably wore the shining halo of the innocent, perfect daughter, while you were violently forced into the shadows, expected to quietly swallow the blame for the family's fundamental rot. But a halo that is forged entirely from lies and manipulation is nothing but a heavy, suffocating noose just waiting to tighten. And the exact moment you completely stopped playing the assigned villain in her fabricated, pathetic fairy tale, her entire identity began to violently collapse. Because a golden parasite simply cannot survive when it is suddenly forced to feed on its own toxic, rotting reflection. You didn't just walk away. You shattered the mirror she used to admire herself. You must now actively embrace the absolute, terrifying beauty of your new isolation. Society violently brainwashes you into believing that walking away from your own bloodline will leave you completely cold, empty, and shivering alone in the dark. But let me tell you the chilling, magnificent truth about that darkness. It is the most peaceful, luxurious, highly exclusive environment you will ever experience in your entire life. The air at this altitude is incredibly thin, yes, but it is finally, flawlessly clean. You are no longer breathing in the suffocating, toxic smog of their constant, exhausting daily drama. You are sitting entirely alone in a massive, impenetrable iron fortress, listening to the beautiful, deafening sound of absolute zero interference. You finally realize the ultimate dark truth. Being entirely alone is infinitely more powerful than being surrounded by smiling relatives who are actively, secretly plotting your psychological demise. Solitude is not your punishment. It is your ultimate reward. They will ultimately expect you to seek a violent, chaotic revenge. They will sit in the shadows, completely terrified and paranoid, waiting for you to launch a massive, destructive counterattack to expose her dirty little secret to the rest of the world. They expect you to play dirty because that is exactly what they would do. But true dark psychology teaches you something infinitely more lethal than basic revenge. It teaches you the devastating, crushing art of pure, unadulterated indifference. You do not need to expose her. You do not need to drag her pathetic name through the mud of public opinion. You simply let her live in constant, agonizing paranoia. She knows that you hold the loaded gun, but you completely, coldly refuse to fire it. Because your absolute silence, your complete lack of care, is a psychological torture chamber she can never, ever escape. You leave her permanently trapped in the miserable prison of her own making, while you casually walk away with the only key resting comfortably in your pocket. Let us completely redefine the archaic, manipulative concept of a bloodline. Society desperately wants you to believe that you are forever chained to a specific group of people simply because of a random biological accident. But DNA is not a lifelong, inescapable debt. DNA is merely a biological starting point. It is absolutely not your final psychological destination. When your own flesh and blood deliberately chooses to stab you in the back, they violently tear up the family contract with their own bare hands. They forfeit every single right, every single privilege, and every single expectation of your premium loyalty. You are not obligated to water a dead tree just because you happen to have grown from one of its toxic, rotting branches. You take the heavy iron axe, you chop the decaying wood down to the absolute roots, and you walk away to plant your own magnificent, terrifying forest in its place. A dark, unyielding forest where absolute, unwavering loyalty is the only currency that matters. Blood makes you related, but consistent, undeniable respect is what makes you family. And they simply could not afford the price of admission. And what of the future family gatherings? The pathetic, forced holidays where everyone sits around a dining table, chewing on dry food and desperately pretending that the massive, bleeding elephant in the room doesn't exist. You will not be there. Your empty chair will be the loudest, most deafening entity in the entire house. It will sit there in the corner like a heavy, iron monument to your absolute self-respect. They will look at that empty seat, and they will feel the crushing, agonizing weight of their own collective failure staring right back at them. They will desperately try to fill the silence with mindless chatter and fake laughter, but they will never, ever be able to drown out the booming, terrifying echo of your permanent absence. Because your absence is a devastating, daily reminder that you had the ultimate courage to do what they were all too terrified to do. You violently broke out of the simulation, you shattered the matrix, and you never, ever looked back. So let your sister carry her heavy, rotting secret to the grave. Let the rest of the enablers frantically scramble to maintain their fragile, pathetic little illusion of unity. You have officially, permanently outgrown their small, suffocating terrarium. You are now navigating the vast, deep, and incredibly dangerous ocean of your own limitless potential. Every single tear you shed over their brutal betrayal has been meticulously collected, frozen, and violently forged into an impenetrable suit of psychological armor. You are completely, flawlessly immune to their cheap guilt trips. You are entirely, unapologetically deaf to their desperate manipulation. And as you stand on the dark precipice of your new, unyielding empire, you finally understand the darkest, most beautiful psychological truth of all. The absolute worst thing they ever did to you, the ultimate betrayal that almost destroyed your mind, was actually the greatest, most powerful gift you could have ever received. Because in their attempt to break you, they set you completely, terrifyingly free. Let us be perfectly, brutally clear about what happens tomorrow. Tomorrow the sun will rise, the world will continue its pathetic, noisy spin, and she will still be the exact same toxic, deceptive person she has always been. But you will be an entirely different entity. You will wake up in a completely new, untouchable frequency. When you finally stop holding the heavy, rotting burden of her secrets, when you finally stop trying to heal a person who is actively, consciously stabbing you in the back, your energy violently returns to you. It rushes back into your veins like a massive, unstoppable flood of pure, unadulterated power. You no longer look at her with anger. Anger implies that you still desperately care. You look at her with the cold, scientific detachment of a researcher, observing a failed, pathetic experiment in a glass jar. You see the flaws. You see the manipulation. You see the lies. But they simply do not touch your armor anymore. You have successfully, permanently immunized your soul against her venom. So as you walk away from the wreckage of this family illusion, I want you to walk with the heavy, undeniable posture of an absolute conqueror. Do not lower your head. Do not ever apologize for the massive, impenetrable iron walls you had to build to survive their betrayal. The secret she tried so desperately to hide has finally set you free. You have violently taken the master key to your own reality and locked the massive vault door behind you. They thought they could bury you under the weight of their generational lies. They didn't realize they were planting a seed that would grow into a terrifying, unmovable titan. The stage is completely burned to the ground. The actors are standing in the ash, terrified of your silence. Now, keep the jaw heavily locked. Keep the stare cold and dead. Step entirely into the dark, untouchable freedom of your new empire. The chains are broken. Now, rule.